Berta, can you tell her I'm on a webinar right now? Okay, so I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to figure out why my auxiliary fields are not showing up as a potential field, but you will see that they have changed here. So maybe I just missed it because I was looking under something else. Let me look again. Form. I'm going to add that auxiliary field to my grouping. So I want to add it to my user defined, and I want to take favorite vendor, and I want to move it on up. Okay. So now if I was creating a new customer, okay, and I add in her birth month, they are in chronological order based on the month. I'm going to mark July. Spouse's name is Fred, but her favorite vendor is Big Hairy Dog. And you will notice that these are in alphabetical order. These two, user-defined fields and auxiliary fields, both have the capability of being reported on just like we looked at those POS flags. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I have that particular customer in there. Now I can use this information to filter down all my customers that were born in July. I can filter down to all of my customers that BHD is their favorite vendor. Let's say that you're going to do a trunk show for Big Hairy Dog as your vendor. Who better to market to than the people that have told you that that is their favorite vendor? They're going to be the ones that come to that trunk show, and they're going to be the ones that spend probably the most money. Okay? Getting a birthday card in the month of your birthday always is a pleasant surprise, especially if you're not expecting one from the retail store that you spend money at. So that also can be a marketing tool. Okay? Now, back out of here, one thing I do want to point out is that there is a customer bestseller too. So if you were looking for the customers that spent the most money, my top 100 customers, I could run this report, set my record limit to 100 or 50 or whatever I wanted, and run it for whatever time frame I wanted, and it would come back and show me a list of those customers with the bestseller, the best customer up at the top of the list, and the 50th customer at the bottom of the list. But that's also going to let me know how much money they've spent. Okay, so let me go ahead, and I only have the one, I have no customers in here, but you'll notice that it would let you know how much money they had spent. That's going to be important for you to be able to pull that data out. Okay. Now, for those version 9 customers, let's go back over here. You have basically the same thing. It's under Options and System Preferences. You're going to go to Local Preferences. Then you're going to come down to Customers. And you'll notice right here it says UDF Auxiliary. Now what I typically do is I'm going to put these in chronological order. I see that the first 2 are date fields. Then I have 6 user-defined fields. And then if I scroll down even further, I have 12 more auxiliary fields. Okay? So you can require any of these to be filled in if you're adding a new customer, but generally we don't usually recommend that, only because the customers don't always want to give you that information, and you can make it a store policy to require it, but I don't know necessarily that I would ever check this box unless it was very, very important for me to track that particular piece of information. Okay, but this is where you'd set it up. So if I was setting this one up, it might be birth month here, except I have to type it right. Okay, I might come down here to auxiliary and put in favorite vendor. Okay, now up here when I'm on birth month, I can create a drop-down list that they can choose from, but know that they can also free-form type January, February, March, April as well. We generally recommend that you create a drop-down list so it's consistently entered in. The way that I abbreviate September and the way that you abbreviate September may be different. you may spell the entire thing out. So the problem is, if I go looking for the September birthdays that are marked SEPT, and you've spelled out September, I'm not going to get the customers that you spelled out September on. So it is important to have consistency there. And that's the primary reason that we create a drop-down list. Okay? Once you've created that list, go ahead and update. And the same kind of concept in version 9 exists here or in version 8 exists in version 9. In my customer database, you'll see I have birth month in here in my user defined and my favorite vendors. And I can come here to the favorite vendor and I can manually type in BHD. I can manually type in September. Okay. Now, if I had created a drop-down list, I could use the drop-down list as well. Same thing with the favorite vendor. I can create a list for you to choose from. These would be in alphabetical order though. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and back out. Okay, now in version 8, you have a tool called data verification. Okay, data verification stands for, or we refer to it as DVS. And what DVS allows you to do is it allows you to flag customers either based on the dollar amount that they've spent or based on the type of item that they've bought. Now, this is a tool that you can only use when everybody else is out of Retail Pro, so that means before hours or after hours. So I'm going to go to Tools and then More, and then to Data Verification. I'm going to click OK. That's going to go ahead and open up my data verification. From here, I'm going to go to Revision, and then to Customer, and then to Flag Customer. So basically what we're doing is we're using the system to go through and put a mark on each customer that met my criteria. Now that mark can be anything that you choose it to be. So let's talk about how this works. First thing, we need to tell the computer what we wanted to analyze. I wanted to analyze all of their buying history. I can analyze from the beginning of time through today, or I can set up a certain time frame. Doesn't matter. I think I'm going to do an analyze all since I don't have a lot of data. You can also choose that you want it to be based on a certain dollar amount. I only want to see the people that have spent $300 on up. Okay, that would be how you could mark your customers that have spent a certain dollar amount. I'm going to leave that unchecked. Now, we also generally want it to look at the sales orders as well. These have not been turned into sales, but they will become sales once the items have come in and the customer comes in to pick them up. Okay. Now, we have receipt filter elements, and I usually put everything above the line. I also have customer elements, and I usually put everything above the line here. Now, on my filter criteria tab, if I'm looking to see anyone that bought a certain vendor, I can come here and say, okay, I only want to see the people that have bought certain vendors. Okay, I don't even know what vendors I have in there. Now, I can also, as an option, say, well, show me all of my September birthdays. And you'll see down here on the bottom half, I have my user-defined fields that have been set up. I also have my auxiliary fields. Okay, so if I was looking to get everybody that picked a certain vendor as their favorite vendor, I could. For right now, I'm going to actually leave this blank. I'm not going to filter for anything because I don't really know what kind of data I have. Now, lastly, I need to tell the computer where I wanted to put this mark. I have two fields in my customer database, Mark 1 and Mark 2. I'm going to use my Mark 1. So I'm going to uncheck Mark 2. I leave it on set mark. Now, this can be anything that I want it to be. It could be letters. It could be a smiley face. It could be dollars. Okay, but I am limited to 4 characters. So sometimes you have to be a little tricky. Okay, So I'm going to do TRA for training. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to save my changes, and I'm going to have the computer go through. And there were no customers that spent, I don't have any customers on any of my receipts. So bear with me. I'm going to sell a couple of things, and then we're going to try that again. Okay, so I'm going to use Jane Doe because she's the one I have in there. Okay, I'm going to do item 1, item 10. Okay, I'm going to tender this out. Oh, I have to do how did you hear? Okay, and then I'm going to put in my age group, and I'm going to tender it out. We're just going to keep it simple. Let me do one more. Okay, repeat. Okay, tender that out. Cash, there we go. Now I'm going to back out to the main screen and bring back up data verification and try it again. Okay, so I'm analyzing all of my data, and I'm not filtering for anything in particular, but I do want to mark all the customers that have bought anything in that time frame. I want to mark them with TRA. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Start, and it brought back Jane Doe. Okay. Now you'll notice over here, it shows this first line is the way her name looks in the system right now. This second line is how it's going to look after I've done the mark. And you'll notice that it puts it in the mark 1. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next and let it write those changes back. Okay. Save tool is in use. Okay, I don't know why that's in use. Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on here. No. Okay, let's see. Okay, next. Yes. I don't know why it's telling me the save tool is in use, but let me see if I can get. Okay. Okay, so I don't really know what's causing the problem or how to fix it, but normally what you would have, you'd click this next and it says it's ready to write those changes back. Once you say yes, within a few seconds, it's going to write those changes back, where when you're looking at your customer database, come down here to customers, normally what I would see in this Mark 1 field, what I would have seen if the save tool hadn't stopped us, is I would have seen TRA in this customer's file. Okay. Now I can then come over here to filter view and add to my filter Mark 1 and Mark 2. Okay. So I can filter and say, show me any customer that has the TRA mark in their file, and click OK. The only one I get back is this customer, and I can see on this miscellaneous info tab that Mark 1 does have the TRA in it. That matched my criteria. Once I have this list of customers, I can come over here to print label and use just the standard 3 across address label and click OK. Now, if I had more than one customer, I'd want to do all listed records. Now, I usually preview it so I can see how many sheets of labels I would need. Because Jane Doe doesn't have anything other than her name in there, this wouldn't do me any good to print a label. Okay, so one of the things that I usually, I'm going to edit and we're going to put something in here. Okay, come down here. Well, obviously I don't have all of my systems set up right. Okay, so now I save this. If I print labels now, you'll see that it does a very clean label. And these are 3 across. There's 32 a sheet. So if I see up here that I have 6 sheets of names, then I know 30 times 6 means that I'm going to end up with 180 customers, 180 labels. I want to make sure that I have enough label stock to cover those 6 sheets. Okay? So know that this print labels, you can use this filtered view in the customer database for anything. You could use it for the birth month. Let me see all the customers that have a July birth month. I filter it down to that information. Okay, clear this. I would add in birth month. Okay, and I'd come down here and I'd say I want to see everybody that has been marked as July, and it does not matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. This brings back my list, and then I print my labels, and I get the same information. Okay, so know that filter in your customer database can take you a lot of different places, and it is a lot of times easiest to print your labels out of the customer database than it is out of the reporting area. Now, in the reports, your list reports for customers will give you any field. You can add any field that is in the customer database to a customer list report. That means address, phone number, email, the mark fields. Any field that you see in the customer database can be put on a customer list report. Now let me show you the default address list, and compared to the way that we get the address information on the tag, the label is a lot more conducive than this, unless you're sending this to a mailing company. Okay? If you're sending it to a mailing company, they're going to want it in this format. If you're doing it yourself, the labels in the customer database are usually a better fit. Now, the reason that I point that out in the list reports is because in the summary reports, I can get some customer information. Even if I come here to this customer summary, I can get their name, first name, last name, their title, company name, even their ID, but I cannot get their address field. Okay? Or I can get their address fields and their zip code, but no phone number, no email address. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're running your reports. If you want customer information, there are limitations on your sales reports as to what you can add to the report. Now, for those version 9 customers, your equivalent of the DVS tool is here under customer management, and it is the segments and the bins and scoring. Now, the segments is probably the closest to what the DVS is for you in version 9. Okay? So I'm going to create a new one. I tell it what date range I want, and I'm going to leave it undefined. I'm going to give it a name, and then I'm going to tell it what I want to filter by. Now, the first time that you create this, you are going to need to create the field that you want. Okay? So let's just say I want to see every customer by birth month. Okay? So I'm going to add birth month to my field. I'm going to add favorite vendor. I'm going to add my Mark 1 field. Okay? But I'm also going to add in some receipt fields, like my vendor code or my DCS. Okay? So I'm going to add that in. And let's do the vendor code as well. Okay? Once I have that in there, I can say I want to see anyone that has September as their birth month. And I click OK. Okay? I save that, so now I can use this filter again and again. I tell it to generate a list of my customers. Now, unfortunately, I only have one customer with that data in there, but I still need to show me those customers. So here's Jane Doe down here. Okay, I can then print labels from here and Same exact thing as what you get in version 8. Choose your 3 across, preview it, and lo and behold, I get the same type of label. Okay, that's your customer segments. Okay, you can filter by dollar amount spent, you can filter by vendor, you can filter for user-defined fields, but you basically are telling the computer, bring me back a list of all the customers that met my criteria. Okay, now you also have something called bins and scoring. Now, bins and scoring isn't like anything that you necessarily get in version 8. And what bins and scoring allows you to do is set a date range in there. Okay, I'm going to give the bin name my run. Okay, now if I choose to set up my bins to where I have equal customer counts in each bin, so I have 10,000 customers, I want 10 bins, that means I'm going to get 1,000 customers in each and every bin, regardless of how much money they spent, regardless of how many times they've been in the store. It's going to break up my total number of customers into 10 equal bins. I don't usually find that that's extremely helpful, but if you have a need for it, it is available. I usually like to base it on an equal metric value, okay? And what I mean by an equal metric value is number of transactions, number of visits, average average sale per transaction, or my personal favorite, total sales. Okay, put these into 5 equal bins based on how much money they've spent. The way I market to a customer that spends $100 is going to be very different than the way that I market to a customer that spends $10,000. Okay, same thing with number of visits. If I have one customer that comes in once a year and spends $5,000, but I have another customer that comes in once a month and spends $1,000 a month, I'm going to market to them slightly different as well. Okay. Now, if you feel like you need to, you can put a description down here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on generate. Okay, I don't have that many customers, so this should be fairly quick. So I want to see my bins first. Okay. So I have one customer in bin 1 and one customer in bin 4 and 5 and nothing in 2 and 3. So what you're noticing, the minimum value, the difference between $99.55 and $131.12, that's the difference between each of these bins. Okay? It took the least amount spent and the most amount spent, and then it divided up the difference between those. So, but I need to see who's in each of these bins. So I'm going to scroll that up a little bit and say, show me my customers. So in bin number 1, I see that Paul Smithers is in bin 1. If I highlight bin 4, I see Stanley Green is in that one. And bin 5 is Jane Doe. Now again, I do have print labels over here, so I can highlight a given bin and print labels for all of the customers that are in that bin. Okay? So that's the equivalent in version 9 of what you did in version 8 through data verification system. Okay? So again, if you have any questions, you need any help at all with setting this up or running this, especially the first time, please don't hesitate to set up a training appointment with a trainer. We are more than happy to help you do this. It does make a big difference when you actually have real data like you all have. I have just enough data to be able to test things, so you weren't seeing a full-blown, list of customers like you would see if you were doing it on yours. Again, thank you for joining me, and feel free to sign up for any webinar that interests you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.